Welcome back to the Mulberry Book Drop. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
We're doing it again. It's August.
Crazy.
It is crazy.
Actually crazy.
I say it every year, but this summer went by so fast.
Yeah, it really did. I can't believe we're like in the 8th month of this year, right? 8, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. And then like as of this recording, all of our friends go back to school next week, which is a little depressing.
It is. I was like, oh, I'm a little sad.
Oh, so this summer we had a lot of families come in that we haven't been able to see in a little bit because we have some people that we only see in the summer. And there's this one family, probably one of the first ones that I met when I started working at the library. So, watching the kids grow up for 5 years.
Yeah.
And when they came in, I don't know if you remember this day, but I was in the teen room when they walked in and I was so excited to see the kids. And so I stood up to come out and say hi. And the oldest one ran over to give me a hug. And I almost cried. She's taller than me.
Yeah. Oh, y'all should have seen Bethany's face. It was so funny. She was like, I wasn't ready.
I was a little heartbroken.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then, but when you said it, her face just lit up and she was like, yeah. I am.
I mean, I know I'm not tall, but I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was real shocked.
It happens.
Yeah. And your storytime kids are growing too.
Oh, it's so crazy because like when I first started at the library, initially I started in 2015 and some of the kids that would come in are now like graduating and I'm like, there's no. Mm-hmm. Like, what? That's not possible. But of course it's happening. But then like the storytime kids, when they come in, especially during the summer, they all see each other and we have a lot of friends that are now in school, but they'll still come back for a couple of the story times just to, say hey and just to, think about the memories and sit in and just enjoy being back in story time for a little bit. And the way that the kids will run up to each other and get so excited to see each other, I just love it. And it's amazing. But now there's another group that's going up to school, and so I won't have them.
Yeah, we have a lot of parents who are telling us, like,
yeah.
Oh, they're starting school this year, so I
don't know that I'm ready for it. I'm not even their parents. I'm like, oh, no, that's not possible. I said, no, you can just keep them out one more year. Just one more.
Yeah, just for us.
So, but then I also know that, like, there'll be a new wave of kids that'll join story time, and that'll be a good time, too. So, but wow.
It's fun watching the kids become friends, but it's also fun watching the parents.
Yeah.
Because it is a weird thing to, like, go to a story time and you don't know anyone, right? Like, you're taking your kid to this thing because you want to do this nice thing with them, and you're a little, it's hard for adults, too, to, like, hey, how are you? And so as you watch them week by week, they maybe sit near the same person each time, or they notice that their kids kind of are like
clicking,
being pulled toward each other.
Yeah.
And so then you kind of start talking to the parents. And so it's fun watching them too. Like, they used to not talk to anyone. And now when they come in the library, like they're chatting with this parent, or maybe they met at the playground beforehand. And
right.
It's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, there was like a great interaction between two of the Storytime kids the other morning, and it just made me think of like the difference between kids and adults. So the kids, you would know immediately, you'll probably know who I'm talking about, but he ran up to a kid and goes, hi, what's your name? And like the kid was just kind of like, oh, and said his name and then goes, what's your name? And then the first kid says his name and then just goes, do you want to be friends? And I was just
it's so simple.
It is. And then we become adults and we're like, can't talk to them, but this is like my 4th time seeing them. Maybe just let's do a head nod.
Right.
Like, hey.
Because when you're an adult, you overthink everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you start thinking like, are they a morning person?
Right.
Like, do they want to talk or do they prefer quiet? Are they an introvert or are they an extrovert? Like, do they, would they, I don't know. Like, and you just overthink everything.
And I just saw that interaction between the two boys and I said, is that easy?
It's that easy.
I was like, I don't know if they'll ever see each other again.
We could learn so much.
Yeah.
So we did officially finish our reading challenge for the summer.
Did.
So today what we kind of wanted to do is a little summer wrap up with you guys. So the first big thing is the reading challenge was incredible. We were hoping to read over 300,000 minutes again. So we had our little mountain climber and he was, reaching the summits, and we read 345,450 minutes.
Whoa!
That is 39,000 more than we read last year as a community.
That's so much.
It is. And that's only like people who handed it. I mean, I know we have a lot of people coming in and out of the library that, oh no, it's really fun to see, but I'm not going to do the bookmarks. That's fine. But like just for the ones that were handed in, that's a huge number.
Well, and I mean, even this week alone, how many people have tried to hand in their bookmarks? And they're like, oh, it's actually already over.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah. So, and if you want to participate next summer, we only do our reading challenge during June and July. Mm-hmm. So those would be the 2 months to look out for. So in May, definitely start asking because we'll let you know exactly how we're doing everything. One of the fun things that we did this year is we wanted the kids to be able to pick their own prizes. So we had talked to friends of the library, and they were so wonderful, and they helped fund a book fair. So when the kids were turning in bookmarks this year, they were earning what we were calling them mulberry bucks. We made these little dollars, and then they were able to come into our book fair for a week and spend their money. And it was so fun to see these kids come in and the decisions that they were making as they were looking at all the books. And a lot of them, they were kind of practicing using money for the first time, which was really exciting for them.
Watching them count it out.
I know. And so we already have ideas for how to do this next year. So we are hopeful that we will be hosting a book fair at the end of the summer again next year. So fingers crossed. Again, definitely check with us in May for all of the stuff about that. But I can't thank the Friends of the Library enough. Like they did all of our large Friday programs for us, but they also helped us to provide this book fair, which was just incredible.
Yeah. Such a fun time. And that's like in school, that was one of my favorite things that would come around every year. Would be the book fair. I'd be like, the book fair's here. Let's go.
Yeah, I loved it. And then if you are interested in joining our Friends of the Library, you can actually join. It's only $10 a year for an individual to join. So we do have forms at the desk. And we are actually trying this year to get 75 new members.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to get 75 new members, Sarah?
Because the library turned 75 this year.
That's crazy.
And we're like, 75 years. Let's get 75 friends. And so insane. I'm like, wow, really? And it's so fun talking to people and then them asking questions. And we're like, actually, no, we're celebrating 75 years this year. And they're all like, whoa. Because, some people don't even realize that Mulberry has a library.
Right.
And they were like, nope, we've been around 75 years, my friend.
Yeah. So. And then there's a lot of people, too, who don't realize that we've ever, been in another building. Yeah. Or a lot of people might only know the building we're in and the one we were in previously. But this is actually our 4th location. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool. And they just keep
getting bigger.
Yes, they do. We keep growing. And we have those pictures. Like when you first come into the library, there's 4 pictures on the wall. And it's all of the buildings that the library has been located in. And it didn't really dawn on me until we started oh my gosh, 75th year. Mm-hmm. And I started looking at the pictures and I was like, oh, I'm like that one building is still on 37. Like I can actually see it when I'm stopped at a light. And so it's kind of funny to see all the different locations. It's cool. And then we do want to point out real quick, too, we have a new bilingual library assistant working with us, and she is fantastic.
She is.
She has been hard at work planning all sorts of Spanish programming for us. So they are officially starting in August. So we've already had some Spanish story time. There's a writing group, there's a book group, and more. So, I mean, definitely come in, chat with her, learn more about the events that she is working to provide for everybody. And she's also helping us grow our Spanish section.
Yeah.
So she's, trying to talk to people to find out what books that they want, what they're looking for. So she has been a huge asset for that as well.
Oh, yeah. I got to sit in with one of her Spanish story times. And I'll be honest, I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, and then I've taken 2 semesters in college. And I wish I was fluent. I'm not. But just listening to it, it's just so fun. It's so fun and so interesting. And I think it's so cool. And she had a few families come to it, and they loved it. And it was just a good time.
That's great. I did ask her, I said, are you going to be doing a few of the same songs every single time? Mm-hmm. And she said, probably, because, kids like repetition, right? And that's how they learn.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, perfect. I was like, I'm going to start listening because I was like, maybe it'll help me because I'm still struggling to learn Spanish. And when I took German in high school, the stuff that still sticks with me are the songs we learned.
Yeah.
So I really think there's such benefit to songs and music and repetition. So I may be spying a little bit on the listening in, you know.
My favorite song had a little cha-cha-cha in it.
Oh, I love it. That's fun. That's so fun. Well, come meet her. She has been a wonderful addition to the community, and we're really excited to have her. So Sarah, I do have a last question about like summer programming before we move to the next thing.
Okay.
I am curious, what was your favorite program this summer to attend?
Okay.
And what was your favorite program this summer that you were able to host?
Okay. Well, I can tell you the hosting one.
Okay.
And it was actually a program that I had to cover for you because you were in one of the big programs. I got to hang out with the Titles with Tea group.
Oh.
And it was just so much fun. It was fun going in and like really no expectations. Because I was like, oh, I don't know if anyone's going to come. Like if they know that Bethany's not going to be here. And it was just a good time. Talking about books with people is my favorite part of the job. So, that one was really, really fun. I see why you do it every month. And that's this past month, I jumped in there and just sat in for a few minutes. So I could be like, oh, yeah, I want to talk about books. So that one. And then my favorite one to attend, that one, I'm just gonna say Gatorland because I got to hold a gator. How can I not say that? So yeah, those ones probably. But what were yours?
I think for attend, it would have to be the snake guy.
Yep.
And that was the one that you were covering for me.
Oh, yeah.
So I suppose technically I was semi the host because I welcomed everybody, but then I handed it over to the reptile guy.
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal. He was so great. And he, of course, the grand finale was he had his huge python named Lucky. Mm-hmm. And it was the most beautiful snake. It was gorgeous. And
I'll take your word for it.
The kids' reaction was classic. I mean, he takes it out and they're all, whoa, you know.
Yeah.
And after everybody left, and the door was locked and everything was good. And he was so sweet. And he said, so do you want to? And I was like, I kind of really do. And he let me hold Lucky. And it's one of my favorite pictures. I have this huge snake just wrapped around me and giant smile on my face.
Britney Spears.
I did. That's what I said. I was like, I feel like Britney Spears. But yeah, it was really, really cool.
That's fun.
Yeah. And I think for hosting, it would probably have to be my my chapter chats group. I really worry sometimes. Every summer my head just spins with like everyone's going to be on vacation. I don't know if anyone's going to show up, and so I always get like really nervous because I have all my questions ready and some facts about the author and things planned out, and I feel like when you run these kind of events you live in this constant fear that no one's going to show up.
Yeah.
And so you sit down a few minutes early because, there's always that one early bird. And so you're just kind of chatting with them. And it's like, well, maybe it's going to be just us today. And then all of a sudden, like, you see everybody else come in. And, I think we ended up having, like, 10 people. And it was just such a great conversation. And so it's always, like, I love hosting the event. But there's a part of me that just always feels incredibly grateful that these folks are, like, choosing to fit me into their calendar.
Right.
And it's like, oh my gosh. And it hits me every time. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just always feel incredibly grateful. And especially when it ends up being a fun conversation.
Yeah.
Like we can be serious, but we can also laugh together. And like, we laughed a lot this summer at my adult book clubs.
Yeah.
So
and adult book clubs are hard to get adults to because of how crazy busy their lives are, even if they are retired.
And they're watching their grandkids in the summer. And like I said, people go on vacation.
Yeah.
So I never know sometimes until the day of. And are they going to surprise me or are they not going to surprise me? Right.
No, they absolutely. But I was like, I almost said both of your books. No, you have a lot more than 2 book clubs. So, but yeah, no. Oh, they're always just a great group and a great time.
Yeah, we had a solid turnout for stuff this year, so it was good. It was good. I was very grateful. But I wanted to talk to you today, Sarah, because I feel like your reading this summer. Oh. You really had a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so I am calling this officially 2024 was Sarah's 5-star summer reads.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today.
Okay.
So I was hoping maybe you would be willing to share some of the favorite books that you read this summer. Okay. So we're kind of focused a little bit on June and July.
Okay.
If there's something else maybe you haven't talked about that you need to like sprinkle in there, I suppose I will allow it. But I was hoping we could stick with June and July.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
So, would you like to go first? I do have a couple titles as well, so we can kind of go back and forth, but I really want to focus on yours because...
Y'all, I really did have a great summer, and I've never had 2 months in a row where I've had this many 5 stars. And I just...
I think we've talked about this once before, but Sarah is a book hugger. If you guys have not listened to our Quirks episode, you can go back and listen. And I saw Sarah hug a lot of books this summer, and that's what made me think about maybe we should just talk about this.
Oh, thanks. Well, some of these you've read, some of them you actually recommended to me. I almost said required. You required me to read it. So I'll start with the first one, which I know that you read, and that was Emily Henry's Funny Story.
Oh, I loved it.
5-star read. But if you don't really know, it's about a girl named Daphne, and she had a fiance named Peter, and he would tell everyone how they met and how they moved back to his hometown to begin their life together. But then he realized that he's actually in love with his childhood best friend, Petra. So now this is how Daphne begins her story. Stranded in a beautiful Michigan without friends or family, but with a dream job as a children's librarian. Hello. And prospering to be roommates with the only person who could possibly understand her predicament, Petra's ex-boyfriend. So scruffy and chaotic, and he is the exact opposite of practical, buttoned-up Daphne, whose coworkers know so little about her they have been running a bet that she's either an FBI or in witness protection. So the roommates mainly avoid each other until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a friendship and a plan. So I just loved it. It was such a comfy read. And let me see what my review was. Oh, I didn't do a review on that one, but it was a 5-star read. But I will say that the one ick that Bethany and I had, okay, maybe not Bethany, I'll say it myself. I'm not a fan of Crocs. I said it. I'm not a fan of Crocs. Personally, I just don't like them for myself. When I see little kids wearing them, I'm like, they look so cute. And but I can't bring myself to buy a pair. People keep joking that they are going to buy me them. And I said, do not waste your money. They are expensive. But on the cover of the book and in the book, he is known for wearing Crocs.
And it is actually mentioned in the story, yes.
Yes, yeah.
It was a plot point.
And I'm just like, oh my goodness. But it was a fun... I'm just a sucker for people that pretend to be in a relationship kind of thing. And that's what it was. And it was a 5-star read, and I hugged it. And I want to say that's one of my favorite books by her.
Yeah, it was my favorite by her. I just remember I had because I always love, like, dates and names, like, when I recognize something that, like, I have a connection to. Mm-hmm. And so I had a connection to, like, the initial date in the book, and then also, like, the children's librarian thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this book written about me?
Yeah.
Like, and I completely fell in love with the characters immediately.
Yes.
And I thought it was a really fun ride.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I don't know, Emily Henry, she's got, like, a magic touch.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I just love all of her stuff. It's so great. So, do you want to go next, or am I going next?
I can go next. Okay. So, one of my new book clubs is the nonfiction book club for adults. And we had read a book called Between Two Kingdoms. And I apologize if I pronounce her name wrong, but it's by Suleika Jaouad. And this book, she actually suffered this really unique cancer, like very... not a ton known about it at first. Like, she didn't realize, like, what was going on and how sick she was. And so this book, the beginning part is kind of about learning she's sick and all of the hospital treatments and all that kind of stuff. And then the second half is this road trip that she took as she was kind of on this road to recovery. And it was such an interesting story. And when we had the conversation about it, all the people who came to the group that month, it was our July title, and everybody had a very personal connection to something in the book.
Oh.
And it was really fascinating, the conversation that we had about it. And we all were just like, oh my gosh, I love that for you. Here's what happened for me. Oh my gosh, I love that for you. Here's what happened to me. And so we all had this moment with the book. And it was so interesting. So in my review, I actually just put beautiful writing, relationships, grief, growth. This had a little bit of everything, including a dog. I feel like that's all you need to know.
Right.
But it was interesting because one of the things that I had marked down when I was talking to them about it is she had this moment where it's like all of a sudden she was kind of like, who am I without my illness? Mm-hmm. Right? So like once they tell you like, oh, you're in remission, you're okay. And all of a sudden it's like, but I just spent years and years and years with this is who I was. Yeah. So like, who am I now? Ooh. I don't know. And so in a way, the grief that she was dealing with was almost like grieving this illness. Oh. It was a very interesting perspective. Yeah. So very deep. And I did love, there was a couple quotes where it was like, perhaps the greatest test of love is the way we act in times of need. I love that one. And then love the people around you, love the life you have. I can't think of a more powerful response to life's sorrows than loving.
I like that.
Yeah, it was a really well done book, really well done. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It really surprised me. I kind of picked it on a whim for the nonfiction book club, and I think it was the biggest win I had this summer in terms of reading. So that was my 5-star.
I remember the people that attended coming in and saying how much they enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh.
The one person was going to buy a copy for herself to have at home because I guess she had been talking to her husband about some of it, and he had been like reading a couple little parts, and she was like, no, I think I need to own this one.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good. What else do you got, Sarah?
All right, so this next one, do not judge me on it because I'm late to the game. Okay, I'm late to the game on it, and the only reason I read it is because we did it for film club, and that is where the Crawdads sing.
Yay!
Okay, I have checked this book out previously 3 times, returned it all 3 times without reading it.
That might be a record.
I know. It was just one of those things of like, oh, well, I don't really have much like to take home with me this weekend. Let me take this one just in case. And then I was like, yeah, no, I'm not in the mood for it. Like, I think I'd read the first page, and I was like, no. But then I was like, film club, oh, I have to do it. I have to read it now. And I loved it. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. And I really don't feel like I need to explain much about it, but you know, it's about the Marsh girl who is basically abandoned as a child. And by basically, I mean, she's abandoned as a child. And then she has the skills to live, but you know, she's wanting more. And so she has a relationship with someone, and then he goes to college, and then this whole thing happens. And my review for this one, because I did write a review, is this book was not at all what I expected. I also read it after everyone else in the world, so I was nervous because everyone loved it so much. With that being said, I loved everything about this book. The beginning of the book was a little slow, but the details about the marsh brought the story to life. I love that the author took her time and did not rush that. I love the growth in the characters, and that was so evident throughout the book. Once I got through the first 35%, I could not put the book down. I did hug this book at the end, so it is an automatic 5 stars. If you have not read it, please do. And I read this one on my Kindle, so I'm just sitting here hugging my Kindle. I did. I really enjoyed it, but I also, part of me is like, oh, well, if I had read it any of those times that I had checked it out before, would I have appreciated it then? Would I have enjoyed it as much as I did? Would it have been a 5-star read? Would I have even finished it if I got halfway through it?
Right.
So it was just one of those, but I did hug it.
So good. I do remember when I read it, that Marsh was probably the biggest surprise for me because it was so evident that in the writing, like the Marsh was almost its own character.
Yeah.
And that was kind of how I felt when I read Anne Patchett's The Dutch House. The Dutch House was like this home, almost felt like a character in the book. Yeah. And I think it's really impressive when an author can do that with this like space or inanimate object like that. You just feel this connection to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. And then of course we watched the movie for film club, and it was a good time. And it was that's probably my favorite discussion that we've had for film club, because it was the first time that everybody in the room had read the book.
That's cool.
So that was really fun, and that was a really cool discussion about everyone's take on both the film and the book, and so it was a good time. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so the next one I scribbled down is a new author that I tried. It's called Writers and Lovers by Lily King. Our main character in here, the protagonist, she is blindsided by her mother's sudden death and a breakup that she just went through. So she's kind of struggling to complete a novel that she's been working on. She's struggling to make ends meet financially. So I don't remember exactly what the flap on the book said that the book was about, but the book that I read was about grief, anxiety, and what I'm pretty sure was like panic attacks. But they were written in this very realistic and understandable way. And I had written down like, you know, that it was beautiful writing and storytelling that for some reason was incredibly comforting. So even though this person's struggling, you're finding like comfort in the words and in this whole process that she's going through. And I just loved the way that it ended. I just thought the whole journey that the character took was very fulfilling.
Okay.
I felt very comforted by all of it. And there was a couple of quotes that I had put in my review of it. And so one of them, I think I may have read this to you before. It was it's strange to not be the youngest kind of adult anymore. Mm. And I always, like, I just had a birthday. I still feel that way sometimes. I still feel like I'm a kid, but it's like my kids are basically, like, pretty grown at this point. Like, I don't have to call my parents and ask permission to, like, do something. Or, like, if I need to buy a new car, like, I just go buy a new car. Like, I don't need, you know.
So weird.
But, like, sometimes you feel like you do, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, no, I, like, have my own stuff going on. I don't actually need permission.
Yeah.
And then there was also this one, which I feel this with you. It's a particular kind of pleasure of intimacy, loving a book with someone.
Oh.
And I felt that sentence so much. Like, I wrote it down 2 different times, two different places, because I think that that's a connection that we get all the time at the desk with people.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in, like, we have, they have been a patron the entire time that I have worked at the library. I absolutely adore this family. And for some reason, the mom this summer was like, I don't know if I like to read, but I want to try to read.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can suggest? And I am actually unsure how many books she has read this summer.
Yeah.
She
devoured.
Has stayed up late to finish books, like, just has become obsessed to the point where her kids are teasing her. I mean, it has become this incredible thing. And I just, it is like, when they're reading something that you enjoyed, or all of a sudden you can talk about these characters that just feel so real to you, and it's cool. And I feel that with you all the time. Like, we talk about books constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And we send each other memes based on books that we love. And it's like, but you just think to yourself, like, they get me. They know me. And but I've never seen it just simply written in a sentence like that. So there were a lot of moments in this book where I was like, wow.
That's so fun. Yeah, she really has, like, devoured the books. And it's funny because when we talk to people at the desk about books, sometimes I'll say, well, I love this book, so if you don't love this book, don't talk to me about it. And I'm like, I'm totally kidding. But I'm just like, I don't want to know. I don't want you to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, maybe give me a month.
Right?
I just need a month to process.
Right? Oh, my goodness. If you can hear this beautiful Florida weather that we have outside, that is what the rumbling is in the rainfall. It got so dark. I'm facing the window. Bethany is not. So I've just watched it get so dark.
I can see it in the mirror.
Okay. I'm like, oh, all right.
I think we're still, I forget what it said on the news today, but we're still getting, like, remnants from that it was a Cat 1, Category 1 hurricane.
One at a time.
So,
One at a time. All right. Is it?
You're up.
Okay.
You're up.
So this next one, the person that recommended it to me was a patron. I absolutely adore her. So, hey, girly pop. But it is Love at First Book by Jenn McKinlay. McKinlay? I don't know if I said that right, but it's fine. But it was also about a librarian. So it's about a librarian who moves to an Irish village where her favorite novelist lives. The last thing she expects is to fall for the author's prickly son until their story becomes one for the books. So Emily is a librarian on Martha's Vineyard, has always dreamed of a life of travel and adventure. So when her favorite author offers her a job, she jumps at the opportunity. That's kind of where I'm going to leave you with that. But I'll read you my 5-star review. And that was, I loved, in all caps, this book. I cried and hugged it. So 5 stars, of course. I fell in love with each character and am so thankful to the patron who told me to read it. I would not mind if this storyline happened in my life, if I'm being honest. I didn't realize I put that. Honestly, I didn't read my review until just now out loud. And I said, oh, I put that. I bold. Okay.
I do remember you reading this one because you... I think I was on my lunch, but we were in the same room that one day. Or no, you were on lunch and I was working and you were reading it. And then you were doing your little reactions. Where you're like, yeah. Oh my God. Just listening to you read.
I'm just such a vibrant reader. What can I say?
You are.
It's one of those things of like, it's getting a lot more common, and I don't know if I'm just getting more sensitive as I get older, but like, I'm finding a lot more books that are making me laugh, but also like making me cry. And like, I'm not mad at it. Like, it's not a bad cry.
You shouldn't be afraid of your feelings.
No. Feelings are very valid.
Yes.
But it's just, I'm finding that the older I get, the more that I'm crying with books. And I always kind of have with books. But, like, even, like, right now, I'm getting a little emotional, like, because I'm going back through and how I was when I was reading that book. And that book it made me cry. And it was one day on lunch that I was reading it, and I was trying to come back from lunch, and I was literally sobbing from this book. And I went and clocked back, and I said, just give me a second, I'll be right back. And, like, I had to go to the back and, like, blow my nose, and it was just, like, a mess.
But you, like, as you age, you do have more life experience, and I do think that sometimes it makes it a little easier to have a connection with characters. So... I think it just happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of like movies. Like, you can watch a movie as a kid and just be like, yeah, whatever, it's a movie. But then all of a sudden you watch it as an adult and you know what it's like to have a fight with your best friend or to be in a relationship that maybe does or doesn't work out. And so you start seeing these characters and the way that the screenplay's written, and you, like, just feel it differently.
Yeah.
I think that happens.
Yeah. So I absolutely loved that book. And thank you. I don't want to say your name on the podcast, but you know who you are.
You know
I appreciate you so much. So, okay. You have one?
I do. So the next one I have is a memoir, and I did this one on audiobook because the person who wrote it is the creator and host of a podcast that I have mentioned on here before, and I know a couple of our listeners have started listening to that podcast.
Fun.
So I will say it's called the Glamorous Trash Podcast. It's the one where they recap celebrity memoirs. They're usually always female celebrity memoirs. It is pretty funny. She is a comedy writer in her day job, but they do occasionally use some language, so I just want to put that out there if it's not your thing. Celebrity memoirs, I can't talk, are not for everyone, and I respect that, but I really enjoy it, and I think it's the take that she has on stuff is usually very interesting, very educated, very informative, and so it's kind of fascinating what she pulls out of some of them. But hers is called I Shouldn't Be Telling You This, and it's by Chelsea Devantez. And I was a little nervous when I first started listening to it that I was already going to know all the stories because I was listening to the podcast. I had no idea.
Oh.
I really didn't. There was a lot in here that I was completely unaware of. It does deal with real issues. It does deal with, like, domestic violence. But what I really took away from it is it also talks a lot about the importance of friendship and the people who will show up for you in your life.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so incredibly well done because if you do listen to her and you do get to know her as a person, friendship is one of the things that she holds the highest in her life.
Wow.
Right? Like, she is so... It's just so important to her, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised. She is a comedy writer, so obviously she knows how to write, which is great, but the stories and the essays that were shared in it were pretty phenomenal. So I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fun. I don't think I knew about that one.
Yeah, it's very good.
Not that I'd be creeping on Bethany's book social media, but I do. So this next one was a recommendation from you, I'm pretty sure, to actually do for the Decades Challenge, for the adult reading challenge this year. But I ended up reading something else that fit for that time as well, but Sarah's Key.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know how to say her name. Do you know how to say her name?
Tatiana de Rosnay?
Yes. You said that so beautifully. But that was a 5-star read, too. So I know that book, I know that it's been popular.
Yeah, it's older.
In the past, it is older.
And they did make a movie out of it.
Yeah. So, but it takes place in 1942 and 2002, where 10-year-old Sarah is brutally arrested with her family in the Roundup in Paris. And it is the most notorious act of French collaboration with the Nazis. But before the police could take them in, Sarah takes her younger brother, Michael, and their favorite hiding place, a cupboard in the family's apartment, and she keeps the key thinking she will be back within a few hours. And then Paris, May 2002, on the 60th anniversary, an American journalist is asked by her Paris-based American magazine to write an article about this day in France's past. And, like, one thing that gets really popular, I think, is that nobody wants to revisit history when it's really bad. And it's like, I understand that there were hurt feelings and there were things like this is, oh my gosh, like, absolutely traumatizing and terrifying, and like it didn't even happen to me, but it's one of those things of like, but we need to talk about it because it did happen. And I gave it 5 stars, bawled my eyes out, and my review says this: I had to sit on this one for a couple of days before I wrote a review. It's weird to say that I love this book because of the content, but wow, was it powerful. It is so well written, and I appreciate how the author put together the story. It was a heavy read, so I do recommend that a person be in a good headspace before reading it. The majority of historical fiction that I read is World War II based, but I was not familiar with the Roundup. I, of course, have gone down a Google rabbit hole. I did, because I was like, I've never heard of this part, and I was like, whoa. And so I was even at the front, like, Googling. I was like while I was reading the book, I was like, what is that? And so, a super heavy book, but oh my goodness. And that's, I think the majority of my summer reads were contemporary romance and historical fiction a little bit. So, but
yeah, I remember when I read that one, it was one of the first times for me where because the reach of World War II was so vast.
Yes.
But we don't always think about that.
Right.
And so, like, learning what happened in Paris with the Roundup, because same thing, like, it was not taught in school that I recall.
Right.
And so it was very new to me where I was like, what?
Like, this happened?
Yeah. So same thing. I was Googling after I read it and seeing images of the, like the plaques and stuff like that were up after. And yeah, it was really, I liked it.
Yeah. So it was really good. I was like, whew.
Okay. My next one might be a little dark too.
It's okay, guys. It
Warning.
matches the weather.
Okay. So it's called Knife, and it's Meditations After an Attempted Murder.
Oh.
By Salman Rushdie, which I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong because I'm a New Yorker. I don't know. But I listened to this one straight through. I like couldn't stop myself. I think the audiobook was only like maybe 4 hours. But I couldn't believe it. And I loved the ending where it's just like, we're done here, I said to Eliza, taking her hand. Let's head home. And I was like, oh my gosh. So the whole thing about this story, though, is the author was preparing to give a lecture about the importance of keeping writers safe from harm. So this is literally, you find this out in the book. Like, this is why he's on this lecture circuit. This is why he's sitting up there. And all of a sudden, a man in black clothes, black mask, rushes up the aisle toward him wielding a knife. And the author's first thought was, so it's you. Here you are. And so then the whole book is a meditation on life, love, art, loss, and finding the strength to stand up again. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fascinating. I learned a little bit about the author that I didn't know. I learned some interesting stuff about, like, his family, but also just his understanding and acceptance of, like, the danger that does come sometimes with putting your writing out there or your art out there. Like, you know, we as consumers don't always think about that, right? Like, because we just look at the fun side, like, oh my gosh, I love this book, I hug this book, and oh my goodness, I get to tell somebody about this book, you should read this book.
Yeah.
We don't always think about what somebody else might think when they read it, and how they might react to it, and what that means for the author or the artist. And it was really, really, really good.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What else do you got?
Oh, okay. So this next one is The Winner by Kristin Hannah.
So good.
So good. So, of course, a 5-star read. I absolutely know nothing about the Vietnam War. And I was talking to a couple people about this book, and I was like, I don't remember it. I don't remember ever learning about it in school. And I don't know if it's just because we started so far back that, like, we never actually made it to that time period ever. And I'm just like, I don't remember it. Or ever remember hearing about it. And that's another example of it's an ugly part of history, and we don't like to look back on it. But this one is Women Can Be Heroes. When 20-year-old nursing student Frankie hears these words, it is a revelation. And so she joins the war as a nurse. This is a book that I was on hold for. And I was number 170 something, I think, when I was put on hold for it. That I was like, man. And you had already read it and you're like, no, it's good. Mm-hmm. Like it's really good. Like I
think I read it in like 48 hours. And it's like a almost 500 page book.
Yes.
It's a big one.
It's huge. I think it's more than that. Let me see if I have it. I don't know that I have it, but it took me 3 days to read it. I stayed up late one night because I was like, I'm going to go to bed early tonight. And then I popped open that book and sure enough finished it.
Yeah.
So my 5-star review is this book in all capital letters. That's it. That's the first sentence. I laughed, cried, fell in love with characters and fell out of love with characters and did not want it to end. She wrote this book so well that I forgot it was a book and I wasn't hearing stories from my friends. I knew nothing about Vietnam going into this book, and I feel like I learned so much even though it is historical fiction. The women broke my heart but also opened my eyes to so much. I hugged this book at the end and did not want to let it go. And then I put this quote in there. The women had a story to tell even if the world wasn't quite ready to hear it. And their story began with 3 simple words. We were there. And I was like, oh, and even like now.
Yeah.
I just want to cry.
I got chills as you read that.
And I get so excited every time that I see it come in for someone because the hold list is still crazy long. And I was like, this is one book that, man, was it worth it being on that hold list. Yeah. And it actually went by so fast because people just devour it.
And they get nervous when they see the size.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't know if I can finish it in 2 weeks. And I was like, pretty sure you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, there's only been like a couple people that have been like, oh, I didn't really care for it. I found it a little bit boring. And I'm like, yeah, no, can't relate.
Yeah. So I did learn about like Vietnam a little bit in school. And I also have a lot of like family members and, so it wasn't unknown to me per se, but I think I forgot how long the war lasted. And then I also, I didn't realize how long it took, and we still have work to do, but how long it took to start taking care of the people who came home.
Right.
Because there is this one scene where she walks in basically saying, like, I need help.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you weren't there. And she's like, no, I was there. And they were like, yeah, but you're a woman. You were just, so it's not like you were fighting. And it's like, okay, but I saw things and I'm having, and we didn't have words for PTSD at the time.
Right.
And the way that she wrote that scene was so vivid to me and just gave me this whole new understanding of why so many people for so long didn't want to talk about it.
Right.
And so, they say sometimes reading gives you empathy. And I think that was like a huge thing that this one did for me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm like a highly empathetic person sometimes to the point where it might be an issue. But this book for me was just like, okay, whoa.
Yeah. No, I remember that scene. It really well. And it's just one of those things of like, no, but she was a nurse. And when all those men got hurt.
Those nurses saw things.
Yeah. Where did they go? And how many men did they witness die?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I was like, ugh. I was like, let me punch someone.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I punched my pillow.
Yeah. You had such a good summer.
Oh, I did. Oh, my goodness.
All right. I have one more. I don't know how many you have, but this one is called Young Jane Young by Gabrielle Zevin. And I have read 2 other books by this author. So if you recognize her name or maybe you don't, you might know her other books. So there's The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, which was the first one I read by her. And then the second one was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Okay.
I absolutely
That's what I want to read.
Loved both of those books. They are so completely different from each other. One of them is pretty tiny. The other one is a honker. What the stories are about are completely different, but I just really enjoyed her writing. And so I was like curious, does she have anything else? And this happens to be another one of her adult titles because I know she has some young adult stuff too. So I got it in, and the story, it's a very unique format. So you get like multiple points of view, but there's a lot of, I listed as like solid quips and quotes, right? Like the characters are frustrating at time, but like what human isn't? And so you're still really intrigued by them. And the storyline kind of has like a Monica Lewinsky scandal idea to it.
Okay.
But it was just, it's something about her writing. It's the way she tells stories. I really get sucked in. And there was a sentence in there that said, I would say I'm the proud owner of several complexes, but who isn't? When you think about it, isn't a person just a structure built in reaction to the landscape and the weather?
Huh.
And I was like, oh, well, that's me. I don't know. There's something about the way she puts sentences together. And then there was another one. There were these characters having this conversation, and the one was just like, trying to understand maybe like why they were upset about something that didn't actually come to fruition or whatever. And they said, because the things we don't have exist in our imaginations where they are perfect. And I just was like, life's not perfect.
Right.
But sometimes the stuff in our head, and I was like, oh my gosh, she just puts really good sentences together.
Yeah.
And she's a fun read. It wasn't a 5-star read for me, but it was a thoroughly enjoyable read. And it's definitely an author where if you like storytelling and if you're a person who sometimes gets like a sentence where you just have to reread it a second or a third time before you move on, like she's one of those authors.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I might have to look into that one. Okay.
What else do you got for us?
I have 2 more.
Okay.
To round out my July.
Lay 'em on me.
The first one is Remarkably Bright Creatures by
Marcellus!
Shelby Van Pelt, which is a book that Bethany recommended to me. And all I'm going to tell you is that there's an octopus in it. That's all you get. But I will tell you my 5-star read and the review. The only thing I knew about this book going in is that there's an octopus. That's it. I instantly loved Marcellus when the book started, and Tova as well. I loved Cameron's character growth and the overall story. I do wish Marcellus was in the book more, but I loved his spunky, brilliant self. The story was a quick read, and I love when a book finishes with a nice, neat bow. I'm excited to see what else this author has or will have. Because I think that was a debut novel.
It was a debut. Everybody keeps asking, like, if they've written something else. And I was like, no, not to my knowledge. Like, they're still out doing publicity and all that stuff for this one. Because it's been so
good.
Which, fun fact, I'm still working on crocheting. And I can now crochet an octopus. The first project I have ever officially finished.
So proud of you.
Was an octopus.
And it's so funny because someone else that works in the city commented on my Goodreads review and said, Marcellus forever.
Yes.
And then my last book is called Heard It in a Love Song by Tracey Garvis Graves. And now this one is really funny because our coworker, I'm going to say her name, Kathy Ann. Kathy, I absolutely adore her. But in her review of this book, at the very end, it says Sarah might like it. Because I said, oh, guys, I really need, like, a recommendation. I was like, I've had such a strong summer that, like, I need to end it really well. And she's like, well, she was thinking 2 books. And one was this one. And at the end, it said Sarah might like. And then the second book, at the end of that one, Sarah will not like.
Yes, her reviews are the best.
So it's basically about Layla and Josh. And they're not married to each other, but they're both getting divorces separately. And she's a teacher, he is a dad, and his daughter starts going to her school, and they develop this friendship, and that's exactly how it starts. It's just a friendship. And it felt extremely healing for me, and I've never even been married. But I just loved it. And when I told Kathy Ann that I rated it 5 stars, she was like, really? And I said, yes. And I said, right book at the right time. For sure. But this was my review for it. This book is what I needed. Sweet, simple, real life things. Love, loss, family, and a dog. I teared up and hugged it. Thanks, Kathy Ann.
See, and a dog. That was my review.
Yeah. So that was it. It was just so good.
You had such a good summer of reading.
Such a good summer. Oh, and I'll say my August has started off very strong. I'm not going to mention them, but
yeah, you got to save them for the next episode.
Yes, that I will say very, very strong. And I said, can we keep it up?
That's awesome.
So we'll see. We'll see.
So what are you reading now?
So I discovered a new author for me. Mm-hmm. I'm currently reading Hello Stranger by Katherine Center. And so far it's really good. And this is kind of the thing for it. Love isn't blind. It's just a little blurry. Sadie Montgomery never saw what was coming, literally. One minute she's celebrating the biggest achievement of her life, placing as a finalist in North American Portrait Society competition. The next, she is laying in a hospital bed diagnosed with probably temporary condition known as face blindness. She can see, but every face she looks at is now a jumbled puzzle of disconnected features. So, I am 50 pages into it, I think, and I'm loving it so far. And this is now the third book that I'm reading by her.
Sarah, would you like to tell our listeners what happened with the last book you read by her in your review?
So I was getting ready one morning, doing what I do. I would think I was brushing my hair, and I got a notification, and it was a Goodreads notification. I was like, oh. I said, well, it must just be somebody liking one of my reviews. It was someone liking one of my reviews. It was her. It was the author liking my review. And I was like geeking out hardcore. Still am, clearly. But yeah, so cool.
It's so exciting.
So cool. I was like, oh, okay. So I am.
Congratulations.
I really enjoyed the first two books. I did not anticipate to enjoy them that much. And I did so much that now I'm going into all of her backlog and
that's cool, though.
Ordering all of it.
Her covers are really fun, though. They're like super colorful, but I've never read her yet. Yeah. So she's kind of on my possibility list when I need something in between.
Yeah, I do think you should. It's good. Yeah.
I'll keep her on the list.
What are you reading right now?
I just started it this morning, so I think I'm maybe like 20 pages in, and it's a debut novel. It's called The Golden Spoon, and it's by Jessa Maxwell, and it was brought to my attention by one of my friends, and the reason that she noticed it is because the quote on the front of it is by Janet Ivanovich, and it says, "This delicious combination of Clue and the Great British Bake Off kept me turning the pages all night." So it was like, you kind of had me at the Great British Bake Off. So somebody else said it was sort of like Knives Out and Agatha Christie.
Okay.
So right now I'm just kind of getting to know some of the people who are going to be competing at the competition, and they're arriving at the property where it's going to be hosted. So I'm still very early stages, but
Fun.
I'm hopeful it's going to be a good time.
Fun.
So, well, I know last month we did our little quirks and all that kind of stuff, so we didn't really talk too much about, like, books. Hopefully this made up for it.
Right.
And you guys have your lists started, but if there's books you read this summer that we missed and you want to send them to us, please feel free. Sarah, where can they reach us?
The Mulberry Library at gmail.com, or you can message us on Facebook or Instagram, too.
And with that, we will just say until next month, happy reading, Mulberry.
Thank you.